What does it mean to be psychologically flexible? What happens if you're not? How do you know if you are? That's what I'm talking about today. I'm Dr. Tracey Marks, a psychiatrist, and I make mental health education videos. Psychological flexibility refers to your ability to adapt to changing circumstances and be able to cope with any distress that those circumstances create. Another way of saying it is the ability to pursue your goals even in the face of adversity. And there's different models to conceptualize and address this issue of cognitive flexibility. There has been Gestalt therapy, which is based on the idea that the whole person is greater than the sum of your parts. There's cognitive behavior therapy with the concept of cognitive distortions. And then there's acceptance and commitment therapy, where you learn to face adverse circumstances by reframing them around your values. Then there's the newer approach called radically open dialectical behavior therapy that focuses on disengaging from your tendency to be over-controlled. There's no one right way to address this, but for this video, I'm going to focus on how it's defined using the radically open DBT approach. Using that framework, here are 5 signs of cognitive inflexibility. Inhibited emotional expression. With this, you keep a very controlled emotional expression. People don't know that you really have a temper or you're very anxious. You may refrain from talking about your feelings and exposing your vulnerability to people. You may also use the silent treatment to punish people. Number 2 is being hyper-vigilant and overly cautious. You may be slow to warm up to people and very guarded in new situations. You may be very risk avoidant, only experimenting with the unknown when you can be sure of all the possible outcomes. You don't have much of a sense of humor, and you're very serious-minded. You notice small errors that people make and feel compelled to point them out. In general, you experience life as hard. Number 3 is rigid and rule-governed behavior. This is based on an excessive need for order and structure. You're strongly guided by what's the right thing to do, and you expect others to do the same. You compulsively rehearse and plan. You're motivated by obligation and duty. Number 4 is being aloof and distant in relationships, and this is based on your tendency toward conflict avoidance. You prefer to walk away from a conflict. You may be exhausted and even annoyed by prolonged contact with people. You tend to dismiss negative feedback and rarely apologize. People around you may feel like they don't really know you. The last sign of psychological inflexibility is envy and bitterness, which is linked to compulsive striving and high social comparisons and dominance. That's a lot. With this characteristic, you're secretly competitive. You may make sacrifices, then feel unappreciated. It can take a lot for people to make you feel like they really appreciated what you did. You tend to be pessimistic and believe that most things in life just don't work out. You also believe that you're just too complex for people to understand you. This kind of pathological over-control is thought to be caused in part by your nature, which is your temperament that you're born with, your coping tendencies, and your family influences, which would be how you were nurtured. An example of a family influence would be having parents that considered mistakes intolerable. You may have been punished for mistakes instead of being punished for defiance. Another parenting style that can contribute to this is criticizing the emotional child or invalidating their worries. That can make your child feel like they can't appear vulnerable. Similar to this style is making your child feel as though they must always show self-control. Insisting that boys don't cry is an example of this. Some of the psychiatric disorders can fall into the category of under-controlled or over-controlled. Examples of under-control disorders are conduct disorder, binge-purge eating disorder, and some of the personality disorders like antisocial and borderline. Some of the over-control disorders are anorexia nervosa, autism spectrum, chronic depression, and some of the personality disorders like obsessive-compulsive, avoidant, and a paranoid personality disorder. The dialectical behavior approach to this is using radically open DBT, which is different from standard DBT. For example, standard DBT focuses on regulating out-of-control emotions, but radically open DBT works on social signals, being more open and forming better connections with others. Acceptance and commitment therapy that I mentioned earlier takes a mindful approach to increasing your flexibility by living more in the moment instead of being future-driven, and it also focuses on having your thoughts and decisions be guided by your values. I talk about how to identify your values in this video. See you next time.